market. Centrum Broking is holding a symposium on the Ministry of Steel's recently announced national steel policy. The best and biggest of the steel industry, from the ministers to the steel secretary to the bigwigs from Tata Steel, from JSW and the like, are going to be addressing that conference. Jaspal Bindra, the executive chairman of the Centrum Group itself, has joined us to tell us what's lined up and of course his view of the market as well. Good morning, Mr. Bindra. Thank you very much for finding time to speak to us before your very important seminar. But before I get to the metal news that you will perhaps be hearing, what's your sense of the metal pack in the markets? They've run up a goodish bit. Is there still value in metal stocks, especially steel?
I think the global prices of metal commodities have seen a significant uptick, and that is helping. The lower costs of financing and capital are helping. I think the policy measures and the remedial trade reforms that the government has announced via steel and some other metals is helping. So a lot is going into the positives, but clearly there is an overhang of a high debt exposure, and the debt servicing burden is high on some existing producers, and that is the challenge.
Good morning, Mr. Bindra. In fact, on that point, there are a few steel companies which are under RBI's big debtors list, the IBC. What could be the nature of resolution? You will be in conversation with a lot of ministers. The extent of haircut, are these going to be takeover candidates? How will this proceed for these steel companies?
I think it's difficult at this stage or even premature to comment on specific individual cases, but one thing is clear from whatever we know, and we'll learn more today at this conference that is being held, and that is that there is a very strong commitment from the government to revive the steel industry, not just revive it, but actually to grow it. The steel policy vision of 2017, which the Prime Minister only signed some weeks ago, which we are happy to present today as Centrum and SEMA association here, is really about taking the capacity up to 300 million tons in the next decade or so. And I think there is a very strong intent for them to see how the existing producers can survive and also new ones can enter into the sector.
Okay. Mr. Bindra, you may have been speaking with a lot of investors, both foreign and domestic. What is the sense you are getting from them, not just in metals, I mean generally market valuations? Is it looking like even this little dip that we've got, 2 to 3%, is an attractive place to buy?
I think there are, from all the interactions I've had both domestically and internationally, there are no big sellers. They are all either still buyers at this level in pockets of value that can always be found, versus those who are willing to wait a bit and try again at another correction. But overall, in the medium to long term, all the interest is positive and strongly positive.
Mr. Bindra, good morning. I know we have called you to discuss the steel conference, but I also wanted your thoughts on what's happening with Infosys. You've seen so many corporate battles. You've seen so many moves like this in all the markets across the world. Your thoughts on what's plaguing Infosys right now and what's the way forward?
Well, I can say that for a company like Infosys, which had such great regard from the market, an event like this is more damaging than it would be for any other company. As of now, I think there is a question mark as to the leadership, next round of leadership. Until that is settled, I think there will remain uncertainty and nervousness around that stock.
Team doesn't think, or for that matter, you yourself don't think this is the time to buy the distress?
Well, if you look at what has happened after the buyback, it doesn't give you any confidence that the market is not looking at where the value. So I don't think it's a question of value. It's really a question of uncertainty. And I think till the uncertainty is addressed, you have to be quite brave to be buying.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, back to the topic of steel. You spoke about the government's intent to revive the steel industry. We've already seen a lot of measures, the anti-dumping duty, the safeguard duty. Do you expect that to continue, this kind of support from the government in terms of protection? Will aluminium also be brought into the fold?
Well, I can't speak about what hasn't happened, but clearly on steel, that has been identified as a critical priority sector in terms of an industry. So, in addition to all the things you said, they've put in minimum import price. They've now made preference for domestic producers for government tenders. They're setting up a research institute for steel. They're investing in coal washeries to reduce the coke content of imported coal. They are working with the railways to create logistic advantage. They are obviously giving policies to the banks under 525, SD4, special restructuring, etc., to help the steel producers. So there is a lot going on. I think the commitment of the government is not just speak, it is now reflecting in actions. And the new steel policy of 2017, which we are unveiling today publicly, is going to be very significant in that direction.
All right, we will look forward to that, and of course we're going to be covering that conference tick by tick, minute by minute. Thank you very much, Mr. Bindra, for sparing time in what's a very busy morning for you. Well, we have to quickly get into a break. And